It's probably going to be my last summer seasonal review for 2016. And it's a pretty interesting label. Solstice d'été, which is kind of ironic because that means summer solstice in French, and it's almost the end. But this was luckily not bottled a long time ago. Bottled on July 6th. I assume that's how you read it, and there isn't some like Quebecois way of doing it, because Dieu du Ciel, this French-Canadian brewery, brewed this beer, and it's the first time I think it's ever gotten below the border. Maybe it's been in Vermont before, I haven't seen it there, but it's their Berliner Weisse. They've been doing this beer for a long time, I guess, and this is the one with framboise, which is raspberries, though I think they make a couple of different flavored ones. 5.9%, a little bit strong for Berliner Weisse, but that's how they kind of used to be. More common in America, because brewers up until recently didn't really want to do 3% alcohol beers, and consumers were kind of confused by it. I still see people writing things on Untappd like, why does a 4.3% alcohol beer exist? I love the high alcohol. And this one, it's very pink, but I don't know if you can see. You probably can't see, but there are some, oh, you can see a little bit on the camera, some chunkage going on in this, even though it's, just a little over 2 months old. And they just make this like a lot of other Berliner Weisses. I don't think there's any wild yeast or anything. They just let the beer sour before they ferment it. And actually, it's fermented with the strawberries too, which I am happy about, because then it's going to be a little more complex, a little more melded into the beer flavor, and a little more dry than if they just added some sort of strawberry syrupy mixture at the end. Oh boy, that is crazy colored there. And I got some of the chunks on there, but I don't really mind. It looks a little weird to you maybe, but it doesn't hurt. And the head is even super pink. Wow. That is intense, but it doesn't smell super sweet. Oh wait, it smells intensely like raspberry jam though. Whew. It doesn't smell super sour also, but it could be kind of sweet. But that color is just ridiculous. They didn't say how many raspberries they used, but probably quite a bit. Carbonation is looking pretty strong. It's interesting, you can see some carbonation coming off of the chunks, it seems, almost. But yeah, it's mostly raspberry syrupy sort of aroma. There's some unique yeastiness about it. It's not quite nutty, but it's definitely not all lactic lemony aromas. It's not making my mouth water or anything. It doesn't seem like it's going to be that sour, but we'll see. A little cap of foam is sticking around, in part because of the lower acidity, it seems, and also the high carbonation. Maybe there's a teeny, what I'm smelling is a little bit of a very slight herbal hop in there, but it's hard to tell. It's really the raspberries winning out so hard in this. Oh yeah, it's acidic, and it's not syrupy. It's pretty dry. Really deep raspberry, like red wine, robust berry fruit flavor. That's very nice. It's not like a spritzery type thing. It's not like some other Berliner Weisses or Goses where they're just like, oh, we added a whole bunch of cherry juice after fermentation. It's like, okay, great, then it's just tart, and then there's a bunch of sweetness. This really melds the raspberry flavor into the beer by letting it ferment. It definitely didn't fully ferment. There's some sugars in here. Well, that's an intense flavor in the mouth, but then the sourness fades really, really quickly. It's like medium-low sourness. I've had other intensely lactic beers that were like way too puckering at first, and then it went away, but it was too much pucker. This is a good amount of pucker for me. and a lot of fruit going on. It's not going to be, it's not super jammy and syrupy raspberry, but raspberry is still dominating the flavor. And the smell, just, it smells like just ready to pop ripe raspberries right off the bush. And the body is medium light. It is 5.9% alcohol and have just a touch of sweetness. So it has much more body than your average Berliner Weisse. But the finish seems kind of dry. It's a little bit tannic. It almost seems like there's some tannins in the berries that help to dry it out in the finish, almost like oak aging would have done. But I really love that smell. It's just slightly musty raspberry or something. Oh, this is very, very nice. And I'm not noticing any weirdness from any of the chunks in the flavor or the mouthfeel. I guess maybe if I drank the very bottom of it with all the chunks, but I don't really care about them. The beer looks beautiful. I guess you can really see those chunks on camera, but that's just what happens when this beer sits around and their yeast flocculates really hard. Most other Berliner Weisses, they would have a intense haze, but it's just what the Dieu du Ciel yeast did. Maybe you could dock it and say that that's not quite the right appearance, but it's not negatively affecting any other part of the beer. It still looks real pretty. Maybe there's almost a slight phenolic smokiness that I'm noticing actually. It's pretty nice from the really intensely fermented fruit. Sometimes I notice that. Well, there's nothing super funky in this. It's not ridiculously complex, but it's done in kind of in a way that suits my tastes pretty well. I'll do, like 82 for it, maybe 84, something like that. It's definitely better than your average Berliner Weisse, but it's not really like a Berliner Weisse anymore. It's something a little more intense and a little bit more complex. So if you love the fruity Berliner Weisses and also the fruity Lambics, this is definitely somewhere in between those. So we'll do like 83.9 repeating. Goodbye.